Radio for the masses.
Headline edition, July 8, 1947. The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army.
If the game is rigged, change the game. Game changer.
I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
This is Fade to Black with your host, Jimmy Church, on the Game Changer Radio Network.
All right, here we go. Fade to Black. How you doing? How you doing? Today's Tuesday, May 20th, 2025. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. What's cracking, everybody? How you doing? Let's do this, man. Yeah. Another great week. So excited to be here. Last night, Lori Spagna was with us. She's always great on the show. And last night we were talking about raising your vibration. Tonight, Dana Louise is with us. And this show tonight is going to sound weird. We're going to do all of that. Tomorrow night, actor Thomas Jane joins us. He is back. We are going to be talking about his book, A Human's Guide to Visiting Aliens. Now, I'm going to let everybody know something. I've known Thomas for 20 years. That's crazy, isn't it? That's crazy. Last time he was on the show, we acted like that was nothing. You know, we didn't even bring it up, but it's crazy. It's crazy to have him on and to see him just step into our community is so great. Anyway, Thomas Jane on tomorrow night, and then Thursday night, Jason Quitt is back with us. Truly one of my closest friends and one of my favorite guests on the show. Everybody knows that. You know what? We need to do another Quitspiracy. I keep having Jason on to talk about his research. It's more fun when we do Quitspiracy. Yeah, but he's got a new book out. It's called Astral Experiences. We'll be talking about that on Thursday night. Hey, that's what I should do. I should just surprise him. He thinks he's going to come on and promote his book. No, I'll bring him on and we'll do a Quitspiracy. We'll see how good he really is. Yeah. All right. I've got 3 major events coming up. I do. In 10 short days, Contact in the Desert, May 29th through June 2nd, right here in Palm Springs, California. Then I head down to South America with Brian Forrester to Peru for the Inca Celebration of the Sun. This tour is sold out. Next tour is in November. You can click on the links below. I come back from that for the Psy Games, August 1st through the 3rd, 2025 in Charlottesville, Virginia. I do have, I'm gonna look closer at this to see if I can pull it off. But I've been invited to host another conference in Texas. And yeah, I'm trying to get that worked into the schedule in the second half of the year. And I've got a few other things that we're going to be announcing over the next few weeks. I'll keep all of you posted. Also, the Monty Python Grail Quest tour next year in Scotland has officially been announced, and the links for that are below. It is in August of 2026, but I'm going to be hosting this along with Haley. I'm going to host this, and we are going to go to the locations that were shot in the film, the different castles. We're going to go to the bridge. Yeah, we are going to go to the bridge. We're going to do a few other things, and all in search for the Holy Grail. So the links for that are below. This is going to sell up very, very quickly, and it's already on its way to doing that. So if you would like to go with this next year, I know it's 2026, but it's Scotland, and you've got to make plans. And also a little extra added treat. I'm going to have some family members of mine that will be attending this tour. So if you want to meet some of my family, which I keep secret, I'm not even going to say who it is. I don't want you guys to bother them. But if you want to go and find out what I was like in the 4th grade, if I was this dude if I was this guy, I was, right? Okay, so anyway, the links for that are below. Before I bring Dana in, I do want to announce a sad day today. George Wendt, who played Norm on Cheers, has departed this beautiful blue gem today at the age of 76 years old. George famously said over the years that he felt like he was stealing money when they paid him for the show because he had so much fun doing it. And that's how life should be. So rest in peace, George. Great run on Cheers. And everybody knew your name. Yep, George Wendt passed away today at the age of 76. All right. So with that, let's get the show started. And the show is called, I titled it after Dana's book, which is This Is Going to Sound Weird. We are going to go through everything with her tonight, her journey, the paranormal stuff, and then, of course, discovering a classified file linking her father to NASA. Now, everything that is around that and the story that came out of that is going to sound pretty weird. And we are going to do all of that tonight. And she's coming to us live. By the way, her links are below over on our website and throughout social media. She's coming to us live from Minnesota. Dana. Good evening.
Hi. Hi. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we got you.
Okay, awesome. Yay, the rabbit of Kirba.
Yes. Big teeth.
Big teeth.
So there is, I don't want to, that is one of the things that I wanted to make sure that we did on the tour was go to the cave.
Oh my God.
So there are a few surprises on this tour, and that may be one of them. But yeah. A rabbit. The huge teeth. Oh man, that is one of the runaway. That is one of the best. Yeah. We're doing all of that. I cannot. Here's the thing with a tour like this. When how many people on the tour are going to go up to that castle, look to the top, and start quoting the French dude? Right? Yeah.
My pimples at you.
No, the best. They're all great they're great quotes, but we've already got one. What? He says he's already got one. All right. So anyway, yeah, it's going to be great. Just going around the country and seeing all of these things. I wanted to build a giant wooden rabbit, but I don't think we're going to pull that part off. So it was my idea. We'll see. Welcome to the show. Now, before we get started, you get the first time guest disclaimer. So let's get that out of the way, which is this. Dana, it's just you and I sitting on my couch having a conversation as friends, and where the conversation starts, it starts. Where it ends, but we're going to end as friends. Now, you have to accept so we can move on.
Yeah, we're friends.
Okay, good.
We're kindred spirit. Spirit. Wait a minute.
You made me nervous.
No. I'm just listening. I don't know. I'm in a state of shock. I'm still thinking because I actually quoted Monty Python in my book. So I'm like, dude, you are in my heart because I wrote about myself, but there was a certain point of time in my book that I wanted to give tools and things for other people. Like my book, I want it to be more like a guide or whatever, Anyway, but I did this Monty Python thing. So I'm kind of like, how do I transition from about me to giving people energy, things to do? I can't even think right now. Anyway,
wait. So Monty Python was the vehicle to do that?
Yes, because I'm like, and now for something completely different.
Oh,
the larch.
Gotcha.
The larch. If you're really a Pythoner, the larch.
And
that cracked me up. And so I don't care. I'm like, I don't care. I'm like, because this is for my descendants and people who love me, and it's also for the world. But I'm like, the people who get me are going to get this. And how do you transition from all about me to, other things and energy work and all that kind of stuff. So I'm like, and now
Well,
for
the
something
title of the
completely
book,
different.
well, the title of the book, I think, is
No,
perfect, by the way.
thank you. Well,
And
what
and
else? I don't know. Yeah.
but I totally get it. I totally get it. And Monty Python,
Yeah.
let's I mean, for those that got a taste of Monty Python in our youth, that's all you
Mhm.
needed because you took
Yeah.
the bait. Monty Python, but those that didn't take the bait, they have no idea what we're talking about. They
Yeah.
just don't. But
Yeah.
Monty Python, and then it was A Life of Brian, right? It
Yes.
was The Holy Grail. It was the TV show. And it 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 just showed us what humor and laughing
Oh my God.
meant to life and how
Yeah.
you looked at the world. And I learned, okay, here's the other thing, and then we'll move on. Monty Python and the Holy Grail is historically accurate. I
Yeah.
learned more about King Arthur
Oh my God.
from that. I mean,
Mhm.
the Battle of Baden Hill, who knew, right? But you're taught that, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it was just historically accurate. Everything that I've learned about King Arthur after that, I would always reference back. Yeah, okay, that sounds right because it was in Holy Grail too.
Right.
So, yeah. What a great way to teach kids, and
Yeah.
including Life of Brian. I
Right.
learned more about the baby Jesus from that movie than any Bible study that I went through as a kid. Yeah. Life of Brian, so good. Anyway, um,
Uh,
so
make
this,
me laugh.
uh, yeah, this
Mhm.
this show tonight and this conversation is going to be very interesting because um, I I have a lot of things that I've shared with me personally that I've gone through over the years. And I've also on this show and on Coast to Coast, I've taken a lot of phone calls and I've
Mhm.
interviewed a lot of people and I've had the weird phone calls come in and people sharing their experiences and I've always given everybody a platform to
Mhm.
just do your thing. Why?
Mhm.
Because I've got crazy stuff that I
Mhm.
want people to at least listen,
Mhm.
and that's what this show is about. And I cannot wait to get into this conversation because your story, your book has got a little bit of everything in it. So
Yeah.
let's start with the basics, and then
Mhm.
we'll get through all of this.
Mhm.
Your childhood,
Mm.
was it normal? Did it have paranormal and strange things going on, or was
Yeah.
there something that happened
Mm-mm.
that turned things around?
Mm-mm. No, this started in the crib. I was an infant, like in my diapers, when the Greys first started to visit me. I'm just going to kind of put a lot of things in a nutshell because it's just so much. Um, yeah, so I was just in the crib, and they started to visit me, and then it was like a regular occurrence, at least once a month or something like that. And I I compartmentalized it. If that's a psychological accuracy of like how is it? I don't know how to tell you this, but I was an infant. I knew I couldn't walk. It was a defining moment because in the window was this gray head, looked like a balloon. The window shades rolled up. That startled me. That's what woke me up. There was a light flashing around. There was humming and vibration. They had that frequency that they had to be in. These particular grays. And for me, I'm just going to say grays is kind of like saying dog because a lot of people have different depictions. And maybe they softened themselves, maybe they shapeshifted because I was an infant. But anyway, just imagine yourself as a grown adult and something startles you in the window. And then the next thing you know, they're in your room and they're over your bed. And then you don't know what's going to happen. It's almost like a surgical thing or something, like a surgical unit, but you don't know why you're there, why they're there. And then you're knocked out. So this was kind of what kept happening. And then when I started to walk, I remember walking around. I have humor now because I'm not dead. They didn't kill me or anything. But anyway, I was walking around. I remember showing them the house like I was a real estate agent or something like that. Like, this is the kitchen and everything. And this went on for a good 10 years.
Hmm.
Just quickly, I'll say many times I didn't know that they arrived or visited me. But every time after they visited me, I would have, I would be changed. Like I would have different abilities. Let's just say energetic abilities, capabilities. And I thought it was cool as a child, like, wow, I can do these things. And then it would kind of fade away, it would go away. But it was really strong, like right after the visitations. My sister noticed that. And I'm just going to say, even before I wrote the book, I ran into the little neighbor girl who lived behind me, and we met up. And for whatever reason, I started to blurb about the aliens. And I'm like, oh my God, she's going to think I'm nuts. Why are you saying this? She's just a normal person. And she stopped me in the middle of it. This is 60 years later. And she's like, Dana, I remember the humming and the vibrations. So she remembers the events happening. And then we kind of remembered that we did talk about it as very small children. So that was a great confirmation for me. And throughout my life, had many, many confirmations. And I always said to God, like, what's with all the witnesses and all these things? Confirmations and the voice. I don't know what you want to call the voice, God, a higher power, a guide, whatever you want to call it. It was just this communication. And it said, because Dana, you wouldn't believe it yourself, and I don't, and you wouldn't remember it. But these people are here to remind you of what happened. And anyway, so that's kind of that. So when I was 8 years old, to back it all up, I think that was about the time, you're starting to get a little bit older. And these particular grays, I just have to say, they were at night, but I met one troop during the day. And it wasn't until I was writing my book. Now, I was probably 4 years old when this happened. And it wasn't until I was writing my book that I realized that when I met this troop during the day in the woods, all of a sudden I was like, well, Dana, the voice is talking to me. What property were you on? And I realized that it was my dad's boss's yard.
Here
like,
we go.
I know. I'm like, are you
Here we go.
serious? I know. And I kind of forgot that, I just kind of forget and I forget. And let me tell you, this whole life, this whole planet is about forgetting, right? Like we're born without knowing who we are and how we are and all these kinds of things. And hopefully we can remind each other and remember, and wake up. Anyway, so when I was 8.
Well, let me jump. You know what this is a good point to remind everybody. And I suggest this as often as I can. We forget nearly everything. And when something strange happens, we put it in a box, put it on the shelf, and move on because life gets in the way. And you just kind of forget about it. So as an adult, take the opportunity to just go back and unpack something that you didn't think was a big deal and go and revisit that.
Yeah.
Just go and do it. It's exactly, if you hadn't have done that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think everybody has got moments in their lives, especially when you're younger. You do this as an adult too, as well. But you just pack it away, put it on a shelf, and then next thing you know, a week goes by, a month goes by, a year goes by, and it's gone.
Yeah.
Go and rip that page out of the book and read it again.
That is completely true. And I also wrote about that. It was like a balloon string. I kept forgetting that the aliens even visited me. And the voice kept saying, you need to remember, Winnie, remember, because it was just like a balloon string. It would just float away. But something kept telling me to remember this. I think it was setting me up for it today. But this is very true. And I guarantee you, so many people don't remember. And maybe they really, really don't remember. Because like I said earlier, there were many times I didn't remember being visited. But there might be glitches. After my book came out, some things happened. I'm not going to get into all of that. But then all of a sudden I was reminded about certain things that happened. I'm like, oh my God, it's like it's there. but it's like you can't bring up that catalog, that page or something like that. It's there, but you're not bringing it up. You can't consciously remember it. So I'm just going to say what's happened to me. It's been a lot, but I think I'm here to speak to others. You know, I'm at a point in my life where I can bring up my voice and I can say these things, and I'm here to encourage other people to bring up their voices and to be reminded and to remember. Because the more we remember and the more we speak out, you know, in so many ways, they can't stop us and they can't shut us up and they can't keep gaslighting us. Because I mean,
It's
that's the
so
whole
true.
thing.
Yeah, it's so true, so true. I have a period, and then we'll move on back to
Yeah.
you. But I have a period in my life. It's really strange. It lasted for about a year. I was in the 4th grade, so I was 8 years old or something, 8 or 9. Where in this apartment in Chicago, lived with my mom and like 5 brothers and sisters in this little 3-bedroom apartment. I do not remember sleeping in my bed. Not even once. I don't. I remember spending the night at my neighbor's house, John. I remember all of that. But as far as my bedroom goes, I can't even tell you. We had 2 sets of bunk beds in there. I don't even know what bed was mine. I don't remember. Not even, it's strange. And right after that, I went to go live with my dad. My parents were divorced. I go to live with my dad. From that point on in my life, I remember everything.
Wow.
I remember everything. But that 1 year, no, it's crazy.
Well,
now, do I want to know? I kind of know. I kind of know.
I'm with you on that. Yeah.
Let me ask you a question before we move on. You said that most of the visits were at night, and then you had a daytime visit outside in the woods, which was later your dad's boss's house.
Yeah.
What did they look like, and were they clothed? And when you saw them in the forest or in the woods, were they clothed? Were they wearing anything? What did they look like?
Okay. So I've met many different entities, and I've only seen one that had a black Speedo. And that was that was probably 20 years ago. That was more recent. They took my DNA. That's a whole nother story. These guys, okay. So to be fair, the Greys that visited me when I was in my crib or when I was, you know, a little bit older, I didn't really see their full bodies, and just kind of like, if you and I were walking around, I'm not really checking you out. I'm kind of like looking at your face more. I would say they did not have clothing, but they could have had a full suit. There would be nothing that would stick out as like a shirt and pants or something. Like that wasn't notable. Now, the ones in the daytime, I felt that they were taller. I don't know how to explain that to you. I felt the ones in the house were shorter, and the ones in the daytime, and that I only recall the one time. And I was tagged that day when they during that encounter. I was tagged on my buttocks, and I've also had a chip come out of the back of my neck. That was witnessed by somebody, the chip, when it came out and stuff like that. Anyway, so those during the day were kind of like I feel that the Greys need to be in a certain frequency, kind of like how fish need to be in water or something like that. I feel like, and they describe in ancient texts like the sky gods or something, like fire and air or something. I think that's their way of describing the frequency that they're in. Now, this is my experiences, and this is my explanation of it. Is it true that they have to be in this frequency? I am not sure, and I can't say. All I know is that whenever I was with them, they were in this frequency, and this has happened on other realms and other things of this vibrational thing.
Were they in focus?
No. And so that's the thing. I could kind of see them. And you know, my memory is kind of like, oh, I see you, but I couldn't. But they were very playful with me, the ones in the woods. I think these Greys were all kind of very playful, which may be why I wasn't so frightened. I don't know. I know I was frightened the first time that I saw them when I was in my crib. I was kind of in a state of shock, like, what the heck? Because I knew, even being just a baby like me, I can't tell you how many months old I was, but had diapers. I couldn't stand, I couldn't walk. I just knew it was wrong. Like, they aren't from here. They're not normal, because I wasn't being shown whatever the heck these creatures were during the day. And it's suspicious they're coming at night. My parents aren't here. There's no introduction. It doesn't seem very happy. I don't know. But anyway, the guys in the woods were very playful. And because I was down by the water, and then they booped me up into the woods. My friends were down by the water. We were all by the lake. And then boop, I'm up in the woods. And I'm like, ah. And then boop, I was back down by the water. That's when my buttocks started to hurt. So I knew that that's when they tagged me. But I kept being like, come out and play. Kind of like that little kid in Close Encounters. What was the little boy's name? And he's like, toys, toys. I was like that old. And that's kind of how my whole thing was, like, play with us. Like, come on, where are you? Come out. I want my friends to see you. Like, why can't we get along and all this kind of stuff? And then I walked up the woods a little bit, and they were gone. And I kind of knew that they were going to be gone, but my rear end hurt. So playtime was done for me. So I ran home, and I went and examined myself in the mirror. Because I like, what the heck, I got hurt. But anyway, so
the kid's name was Barry.
Yeah, Barry. Yeah,
Barry. That was that scene.
Yeah.
When that was in Indiana, right? And so she's out in the cornfield.
Yeah,
and she's yelling for him.
Yeah.
I cried like a little baby. That was
Well,
Barry. Yeah.
Well, I related to it because Barry was me. You know what I mean? Barry was me. And that's the whole thing. I'm jocular about it because I'm okay, blah, blah, blah. What else are you going to do? Laughter's the best medicine, blah, 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 blah. And I do feel like there was some kind of a, hey, I just remember during the daytime that one. And I'm telling you, I was like Barry's age. I was a little kiddo, and, I was like, hey, come on, meet my other friends, but they weren't interested in my other friends.
I want to, let me say this. Black Speedo would scare the crap out of me. That's terrifying. That's a nightmare.
Yeah.
That's a nightmare.
Yeah.
That's a nightmare.
Well,
that's a nightmare on any day.
You want to see him?
No, not really.
Okay.
I'll take you to bed. No.
Yeah, that was later, but I do. Okay, so after, so here's this transition. I'm going to explain a transitional point, and this involves the president. This gets into shadow government stuff, and I got receipts. But anyway, so I think I was handed off. I was done with the grays, and then the guy with the black Speedo, who was like very, very skinny. Now remember, Close Encounters. Yeah. Same one. Okay. With the guy in the bay door and then this tall, skinny guy. At first, there's like all these flappy little kids that come out.
Arms. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. If you notice in Hollywood many, many times, you're going to see that guy in different movies and different depictions. Basically, that's who I encountered. Although this guy that I encountered was more human size kind of a thing. His hips were about this big around, tiny, but very skinny. And when I saw him, I was like, oh my God. I remember you. I mean, now I'm seeing you, and now I'm actually remembering you, because when this transition happened out of the grays, I think this guy or gang took over. And I remember being in like 3rd or 4th grade, and I would make like the stick guy. You know how we would play hangman, because like I'm of a particular age. We didn't have much for entertainment. We didn't have iPads and all that kind of stuff. Anyway, so we play like hangman or something. But I would make a balloon head and then a body with like squirrely arms and legs. And I didn't know why I would make this drawing. And then I would sit back and laugh and rock. And when I did it, I'm like, why are you sitting back rocking and laughing? And I knew it was a trauma response. Like I was cognizant of everything that I was doing and why, but I wasn't when I made the drawings at that time, I didn't know it was another alien. But then as an adult, I was probably in my 40s and I'm like, oh, snap. I know who you are. And I know why. Like everything came rushing back. Okay. So I got to tell you.
What year did this take place?
With the Speedo guy?
Yeah,
or the transition?
Well, just in general, because you have 4 to 8 years old. Then you have the time after that. Then you have the Speedo guy at your dad's house. Well, your dad's boss's house.
Oh,
what year?
No. Okay, so the when I'm at the yard with the up in the woods when I'm 3 years old. I'm still living at home. I'm 3 years old. I'm a little kid. The Speedo guy. I'm 40. I'm grown up here. I'm a married woman with children, and my husband was in bed sleeping next to me. That whole thing. So aliens have visited me. Angels have visited me. Ghosts have visited me. I have a plethora of the supernatural and the paranormal. You name it. I've seen it. I've done it.
You don't look that old.
I'm 63.
What?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, I'm old.
Bullshit.
Yeah,
no.
Yeah, I am.
You're older than me?
Yeah, probably.
You look like are you buying this story now? Okay.
No, you gotta no,
so
this is
apparently ET has frozen your age.
Oh, I don't know. Okay, no, okay. I'm just gonna say when I was young, this is weird. I am weird. Okay, so I don't know, but when I was young, like 16, I looked like I was probably 25 or I look more adult because I was precocious. Okay, understand that by the time I was in 3rd grade, I was almost as tall as I am now. I'm 5'8". I was precocious. It's a whole long story. I was saved from Montauk. It gets deep, and that's not even in my book. That whole thing that might be in a different book or whatever.
My producer John said I didn't believe she was 40. I'm with you on that. I wasn't even buying the 40 crap. That's why I was like,
sweet.
How old were you? What year? And now you're telling me you're 63.
Here's me. This is me, little baby Dana.
Man, crazy.
Oh my God. Here's me. I'm 15. This is back in the 70s. Hey, if you notice, I've got remember the bib, you probably are too young, bib overalls, and you'd have one hanging down and one hanging up and stuff like that. Yeah. Oh my gosh, wait a minute. Here we go. Oops, sorry, buddy. Here's me and my sister. Now, this picture isn't epically old. I don't know what is. That's me and my sister. Hell? I know. I looked old when I was young, and then I got carded for a million years. My kids are 30 and 33. Blah, 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 blah. And I got proof right here. So here, this is what I'm show you. Okay. And this is good lighting. This is good lighting. And castor oil and blah, blah, blah. But anyway, good lighting, long hair. Because seriously, if I put my hair up, I could look old. All right. So I don't know if you can read this. All right.
Okay. Pull it back. Just a little bit. They're right there. Okay. Got it. Presidential visit. 19. What does that say?
70. October 29th. So down here, my dad wrote my name, but I put my name sticker over it because I don't reveal my last name ever. So just to protect my family for a lot of reasons, because the government is involved in my story. So here I am, special guest. October 29th, 1970, Rochester, Minnesota. And this is in the news. I was interviewed by KSTP and, all the radio station stuff. So anyway, my parents took me out of school and brought me to the Rochester airport, not the Minneapolis. See, I grew up in Fridley. So it's Fridley and then Minneapolis airport, but Rochester's, the Mayo Clinic down south. So I remember the day. I have a really good memory. So I remember getting there, parking, getting the name tags, and then we went out to the tarmac and we're sitting around. I'm like, tall, whatever, but I'm the only kid there. My sister's 7 years older. She was with. But anyway, so we're sitting there for a while, and I see the media's there, and up rolls Air Force One. And the doors open, out pops Richard Nixon and Pat Nixon. And she walks up to me and hands me a long stem red rose.
Wow.
And I didn't think anything of it until I'm writing my book. And all of a sudden, like I'm thinking back, I'm remembering the whole thing with my dad's boss's backyard and all that kind of stuff. And then I'm like, oh, Dana, when she handed you that red rose, that's sub rosa. I mean, she's handing you this rose. Anyway, so while I'm going through all of this and my mind is spinning and I'm writing my book, and literally I'm like, oh, I don't, I'm trying to integrate all these things, these new memories, because they're coming flooding back, which we talked about earlier, like 5 minutes ago, about the balloon string. It's all right there, but you kind of forget about it. I had forgotten this, and I didn't understand my whole life, the importance of it. But the voice said to me, go look up the presidential diary. I'm like, what? And they're like, yeah, there's a presidential diary. I'm like, okay, presidential diary. And so I had the name tag, and the voice told me back in the day, keep this name tag. You need this name tag. I'm like, okay, I'm 8 years old. I've kept this name tag all these flipping years. So I have the name tag, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, so I look up at the presidential diary, and I printed it up. It's right here. And you can go to my website or whatever. This is the manifest for the flight. This is the actual flight manifest for the day, because it was a junket. They went to a couple of places. So the presidents they're coming, and there's like 30 some people on this, and there's Haldeman and all these, classic names. Anyway, everybody's listed on there, right? Secretaries, blah, blah, blah. Pat Nixon is not on the manifest for that day, which I thought was super cool. It's like, okay, so if the plane went down, they're not going to look for Pat Nixon. She's not on the flight manifest. She's not listed. She's not a person on the flight. And This is the woman who's handing me a red rose.
Right.
I mean, I don't know about you, but I find it very interesting.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. That's cool.
I thought so. I kind of thought so. But yeah, so here. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, before we get to the break, I want to set up. There's a lot of stages to your life, and I want to get to the paranormal stuff too as well.
Oh my gosh! Yeah.
Let's get to your dad.
Yeah.
Did you know what your dad did as a job?
Well, we thought, he worked for various, he was an electrical engineer. We thought, he worked for like Spare Univac and Honeywell and all that kind of stuff. But I always said to my sister, I was traded for alien technology. Now, I'm telling you, this is before the internet or books or any other person said anything. I knew I was swapped. So my dad, I knew I was swapped. Because I knew.
Swapped with who?
I was swapped for alien technology of information. Okay. Information. So at my dad's funeral in 2010, a man came up to me and my sister, and he said, I don't know why they fired your dad. And my dad always said he quit his job. And that's a whole long story. And I think my dad quit his job, or he got fired because they were slating me for Montauk. Okay. And my dad's like, no, you've done all this stuff with the aliens, no to Montauk. And then that's what brought me into the super space program. But that's a whole nother long story. But anyway, so this man said, I don't know why they fired your dad, because he was a genius. He changed the supercomputer. And in this file that I got, which you mentioned earlier, I didn't know what this was. So here's this picture. And I went to like a MUFON meeting, and I asked all the old farts there. I'm like, hey, does anybody know what this is? And I'm like, yeah, that's part of the supercomputer. I'm like, well, apparently my dad transformed it. We thought he just worked for Spare Univac. But when I got this file, there were classified papers that say classified, and that my dad had been working and talking and whatever with NASA. And then I posted something just because I listened to that voice, and the voice is like, take a picture of this classified paper and post it to Facebook. I'm like, okay, I just obey. So I did it. And then these other men go, oh my God, your dad was at Wright-Patterson. I'm like, I don't know. Cause I didn't even read what I took a picture of. I just did what I was instructed to do. So I took this picture, I posted it on Facebook, and they're like, oh my God, your dad was reverse engineering the Roswell craft because they had him in Texas. My family, we had no idea that my dad was working with NASA. And here was this file that came to me. My dad died in 2010. My book came out in 2023. And a couple months later, after I did a MUFON talk, this mysterious man from out of the blue was like, hey, he was full of baloney. Okay. And I say baloney because I don't know your tolerance for swearing because I swear like a sailor. So I say baloney, baloney sandwich to keep it G. Anyway, so he came up with this baloney story of how he found this file behind a drawer in a desk. I'm going to show you. I mean, I don't know about you, but my kids, like 3 months later, like in their dressers or a desk, you're collecting felt. You know what I mean? There's dust. This thing is pristine. I had been praying. I was praying to God a couple months earlier saying, God, I wish I had pictures of my dad with Hubert Humphrey. My dad was a Republican. Hubert Humphrey was a Democrat. But for whatever reason, they were friends and knew each other and all this kind of stuff. Like, that's kind of weird too. And sure enough, in this file, Hubert Humphrey, and I prayed for that. And 15 years after my dad died, here it comes. I mean, if you don't believe in God, I don't know. I do. But anyway, so yeah, it's just crazy. It blows my mind. I mean, I'm just enjoying things. I'm sitting back and.
Well, okay. As you went through the file, was your father's name in the file?
Oh yeah. I mean, these papers are classified papers from the military. And then, yeah, and like I'm like, okay, here it is. It says NASA, and then the whole right path thing, and then ASQC, which is like an electrical engineering group that my dad was with, and all this. There was just a lot of enlightenment about what he was doing and what he was up to. This file goes from 1960 to 2008.
Wow!
And this guy found it in the back of a drawer of a desk that he's had for 30 years. And somebody said to me, like, well, didn't you bust him? Like, why didn't you say, oh, dude, la, la, la. And I'm like, no, I wanted to hear his baloney story. I wanted to hear it because I know he's full of crap. I know that he knows that I know that he knows that I know that he knows, but I'm allowing him because if I bust him on it, I wasn't sure what would happen. I mean, he'd probably neuralize me. Boop. He'd probably neuralize me. I'd be like, I was just at the Mall of America. And I would, and he would take the file away and I'd be like, oh, honey, I went shopping and got some shoes. And my husband would be like, I thought you were going to meet somebody. Oh, I wasn't meeting. You know what I mean? So I'm not messing with these people. Yeah.
This is amazing. And you said earlier, you've got the receipts. When it comes to things like this, and the story itself, I'm going to say this, it's entertaining at the very least. But when you back it up, right, where you've got this other stuff, that's where a lot of people, you don't necessarily want confirmation because that proves to you that the conspiracy is real.
Oh yeah.
And for most people, you can't handle that. You can't. You'd rather not have the proof.
Right.
But now you've got this, and your dad's name is in it. Give us a few examples of what he was working on.
Oh well, it like rockets and stuff. But you have to understand. And he was with the Defense Department, okay?
And you had no idea.
Well, mayhaps. I mean, just being with Honeywell or Univac, you kind of figure. But I thought he was working on computers. And then here's the Defense Department. He's walking on rockets and ordinances and all this kind of stuff. And then my sister, who was a dental, she wasn't even a hygienist. She was just this dental worker. She got a job as an engineer. They just gave it to her and stuff like that. All these weird things were happening. So you have to understand a lot of these things, like the ASQC file or papers. If you go to my website or some of my Facebook stuff, you read it, and it talks like he's giving a talk and all that kind of stuff. That's all code, because they're not going to put it. Now, the classified papers are one thing, but the other things, like, because it says what program he's on, and I'm sorry, I don't, you could go and read it, because I posted it, but because I can't retain all that stuff. But anyway, so a lot of this is code, because they're not going to say he was doing this or that. It's just other people who are more knowledgeable, researchers and stuff like that. I'm not a researcher. I just happened upon all this stuff. This came out of the blue for me. I'm still trying to comprehend it. My husband, who thinks I'm the biggest probably wackadoo, I never told him about all this. Like, when I was dating, you think I'm going to tell him about angels and ghosts and the secret government and all that, and UFOs? No way. No. So, but the book came out. He's not read it. I don't want him to read it. And then when the file came, he sat there. He had a moment like somebody shot his dog, because it's like, this is
you
real.
don't want confirmation. That's exactly my point.
I did, though. I did, because it made me feel like, to my sister and brother who thought like I'm loony, and my friends and everybody, they know me and they believe me because they've witnessed a lot of things. And my sister has too. But my brother, whatever. But for them to be like, like I'm the little sister, and they're always downplaying me, like, but now here I'm like, oh, here's Dad at NASA. Okay, now what? Okay, people, like, how am I making this up? This is real.
Okay.
How can I make up pictures? How can I make up pictures of you? Or how many of you guys, you're in these pictures too, and they know that this is the real deal. And they took, like, my dad's Christmas card list. They took weird stuff. It's like they were swiping stuff off his desk. So what I'm going to say to you is, this man, I don't know what three-letter alphabet he was with, CIA, FBI, LMNOP. I don't even know. I don't even know if he's a whole human. He could be a hybrid, because one woman was like, weren't you afraid? I don't think he was fully human. I'm like, dude, I've met so many aliens. I don't even, whatever. If they really wanted me.
Wait. Yeah, I get that. So
somebody's helping me.
God, there's so much to talk about here. What about the rest of the family? What about your mom?
Well, they're all gone.
To her about,
they're all gone. They've been dead for 15 years.
But you talked to her about this at some point,
didn't
you?
No, never.
Your brothers?
No, not my brother. Nope. Okay, I talked to my brother when I was probably about 7 years old, and I said, do you believe on life on another planet? And he said, you're nuts. You think there's life on another planet? This is back in the 60s. Okay, so that ended that conversation. My sister saw that I was changed. Remember, like, when the aliens would come, because I could change things. I would manipulate electrical equipment and stuff like that, or do things. So she saw it. She hated it, but she saw that I was changed. So she can't deny that. But I never talked to my parents until they were dying. And I'm going to tell you, I'm sure my dad was neuralized. I don't think if he consciously remembered or knew any of it, he went to his deathbed without saying, because I said to them, have you ever seen a UFO or an alien? And they're both like, no. And they were in their 80s, and they didn't live much after that. And what am I going to do? I just let it go. I never talked to my family. I never said, oh, aliens were here last night. I compartmentalized it. I just took it. This stuff happened to me, and I'd wake up the next morning and try to go on and be a normal human being. And I knew that I wasn't, for a lot of reasons. But I just desperately wanted to be normal. So I just tried to continue with a normal life.
And your mom was able to keep all of this away.
She didn't know.
No, she knew. Moms know everything.
No. I don't think she knew my dad was with NASA. She didn't know anything about the aliens. Nobody knew about the aliens.
Talk about when the bedroom door is closed.
This is the 60s, man.
Yeah,
no, you don't talk about things. I guarantee you, I'll tell you this. My dad talked to me. My dad talked to me about his military experiences. We had black ops guys getting snookered to keep things PG in the backyard. And I would be this little girl with a bunch of grown men, and they'd be getting drunk, and it'd be me and a bunch of grown men getting drunk, and they'd be drinking beer, talking military stuff. And I've had military people disclose to me the worst things that you can ever imagine to a little blonde girl. Why are they saying these things? I mean, it's just peculiar. But that was my life, and I just kind of took it. I always just took it, and I shut up about it. I can keep a good secret, you know what I mean? And I'm going to tell you, this man who gave me this file brings me hope. Brings me hope for me, brings me hope for you, brings me hope for this audience, brings me hope for this planet. That makes me want to cry, that there are people out there that are fighting for us, because there are people that are fighting against us. And this is why I'm here, and this is why I'm speaking up. I don't make any money. This is my passion. I'm trying to sound the alarm of hey, everybody, we've been gaslit. Time to wake up campers,
right.
Zip, zip, zip. But there's people in the government, in the shadow side, that want to keep us human, that want the best for us, that don't want us to become AI slaves, or the slavery that we've been under. You know what I mean? So when I got the file, I felt very confirmed, and I was, I basically cried, because I'm like, there's hope. There's the good guys, the white hats and the black hats. And I've worked with the white hats and, the space program and stuff like that, because I've been on that. I think my dad saved me from Montauk, and then the next thing, and that's a whole nother story. And that's a little bit of the book about being in the super space program. And that stuff is real. And they bring kids into it, because kids are smart, and kids can do it, and kids don't ask questions, and kids don't know what they're doing. You know what I mean? They just do as they're told. And that's kind of who and how I've always been.
And this was all, just really quick, this was all in Minnesota?
Yeah. Yep. And you don't, Minnesota. Woo! Yeah.
What?
Sorry.
Besides, you got Paisley Park. A lot of crazy stuff.
No, we have a lot of ordinances here. We have, you got 3M, Minnesota mining and manufacturing. You had the Ford Motor Plant. We have this place over here called the TCAAP, which is the Twin Cities Armory Defense, where they're making ordinances and stuff like that. And they have tunnels underneath there, people. And my sister would go there and deliver ordinance papers, secret papers. And I told her, I'm like, there's gotta, at one point I'm like, there's gotta be aliens over there. And then one day she's like, la la la. So I went down into the basement, and I'm like, wait a minute. So she said, I'm sorry, excuse me. I took the elevator, and I'm like, these buildings are 1 story, maybe 2 stories. Why would they have an elevator? Oh, I answered my own question. I'm like, is that for some of the military guys that might be disabled? And she goes, no, into the basement. And I'm like, dude, the basement. I'm like, how many levels are on this elevator? And she's like, I don't know, about 4 or 5. I'm like, well, and you went down there? I'm like, what's down there? She's like, oh, offices and tunnels. They've got bicycles and golf carts. And that's a whole nother story. I mean, all the tunnels and all that kind of stuff. And Minnesota, a lot of alien activity, a lot of UFO activity, especially back in the 60s and 70s, because I think they were nervous about what was going on, because this is where we were, manufacturing it, back to this. And like, maybe they were worried. What is this computer going to do? What are these idiots up to? Did
the guy that gave you this file, did he work with your dad?
Oh, thank you for bringing that up, because that's the thing. Okay, here's the thing. His story, right? I found this file in the back of a desk that I bought from, I don't remember if you said it was Univac or some, I can't remember. I wrote it down, which company, but one of these companies like Honeywell, Univac, Sperry, blah, 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 blah. Bought it 30 years ago. Well, the file ended in 2008. And anyway, the guy kept saying, I wish I knew your dad. I wish I worked with your dad. I'm like, dude, you found a file. What do you know about my dad? Why would you wish you worked with him? Why do you wish you knew him? So I said, oh, were you an electrical engineer? Like, that would make sense. And he goes, no, I was IT. And that kind of blew my mind because IT guys aren't stupid. That just made his bologna sandwich so much more delicious because I'm like, yeah, I'm pretty sure you're probably pretty good with your dates and all that kind of stuff. And why are you saying you wish you knew my dad? You found a folder of a random person, right? Yeah, it wasn't random. Yeah. And then he was like, so when I went to his house, which he was very specific about what time I could be there or not be there and all this kind of stuff. And before I went, I'm like, well, I should give him a thank you for keeping this file and giving it to me. What could I do for him? I'm like, chocolate. I'm like, what's a dude? I'm like, wine. I don't know. Does the guy even drink? I'm not going to give him wine. He might be a whiskey guy. Well, I'm not spending money on whiskey. I'm leaving because it was very like, come now, basically kind of a thing. So I'm like, well, all I have is my book. So I brought the book and I'm like, I don't know what to give you as a thank you, but here, I hope you can accept this. Thank you so much. You'll learn more about my dad in it that you wanted to meet. Anyway, and he's like, thank you, like, come back and sign it one day, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, well, I'll just sign it right now.
Well, what was his excuse? What was his story? Excuse is the wrong word. How did he connect you to this file? How did he know to give you the file?
Well, there were papers in there. There was one paper towards like 2008, I believe, would be the last paper where my mom and dad, this is what's weird, where my mom and dad took a trip to Ireland. And there were the papers that my parents submitted to the church. This is kind of like a church thing. And it had like, in case of emergency, and it had my name, but it had my landline on it. And I'm very private. So I have no idea because we got rid of our landline.
Wait, that paper was part of this file?
Yeah. Weird stuff was in there. Weird stuff.
Hell?
I know. What? Like I said, my parents' Christmas list, like a really old crappity crap. There was a letter from my dad's, I think it was his secretary. I tried to call. I got a hold of this lady's family because it's like, in this letter, she's like, I don't know how to explain you to my husband, but we should get together and all this. So I think it was his secretary. And there's like, oh yeah, look at this. They're old timey. Well, I shouldn't really show you that because I usually bleep it. They're old timey Christmas card list. I mean, there was just weird things. It's like they were swiping things. There was like some lady. I don't even know who she is. Like, was my dad?
This guy know? Okay. How does this guy find you? So he comes up to you. You're speaking at MUFON about your book, and this is where he came up to you?
No.
How did he find you?
He called me on the phone, and he said, and the weird thing is on my cell phone, which I don't know how he got my cell phone number. He called me on the phone. He goes, don't hang up. That's how I'm like, hello. And I thought it was going to be, because I don't normally answer my phone to numbers that I don't know, but I was waiting for a medical call. So I picked it up. Thank you, God. And he goes, don't hang up. That was the first thing he said. Don't hang up. He was in a panic. And I'm like, okay. And then he goes, do you know Dawn? Blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, yeah. And that creeped me out because I'm like, who the F are you? What? Because my dad's been gone for 15 years. And he goes, and that's when he said, well, I have this desk that I bought from this company. God, what company? Because it was a transition. Anyway, like not Medtronics, but anyway. And he goes, and I found this, and I was cleaning it out. 30. I've had this desk for 30 years, and I was cleaning it out, and I found this folder behind one of the drawers. And that's how that happened.
I'm not buying.
No, I know. I thought it was hilarious. Because I may be blonde, but I'm not stupid. That's my cover story. I'm like, yeah. Yeah, I'm like, yeah.
But
I know what
this
you're up to.
folder, okay,
Yeah.
okay. Let's take our break right here. Let's get this in,
Okay.
Dana. Dana, you stay right there.
Okay.
I'm your host, Jimmy Church. This is Fade to Black. Our guest tonight, Dana Louise. Her book is, this is going to sound weird. That's the book. That's the show. We'll be right back after this short break. Stay with us. Subscribe to our YouTube channel to get your alerts and access to over 2,000 videos. Click that subscribe button right now. Go to jimmychurchradio.com and get the Fade to Black official podcast. 2,000 episodes, all of them commercial free for just $2 a month. Watch Into the Vortex on Gaia TV. It's Fade to Black for the screen. Simple to do. Go to Gaia.com, search Jimmy Church, or click on the link below. Follow Fade to Black on Twitter at JChurchRadio. Get all of the show updates every single day. It's now called X, but who cares? How you doing? Jimmy Church here. Special announcement. Get your Fade to Black t-shirts. That's right. Help support the show. Help support everything that we do over here. We've got 2 t-shirts. We've got 2 ways to get them. Get your Fade to Black t-shirt today. Go Backley Tappy. Go to jimmychurchradio.com and become a Fadernaut. Get a membership. That's right. Everything is commercial free. You have access to downloads, and you get to call yourself a Fadernaut. Today we're headed to Bolivia, Tiwanaku, Peru, and of course, Pumapunku. Brian, exciting. Thank you so much for everything, my friend.
Always an honor. Right behind us is the sacred river of the Inca that goes past Machu Picchu. So we're going to be driving up to its source at 15,000 feet above sea level and then down to Lake Titicaca.
So today we hit 15,000 feet.
Yes.
Crazy. And you can do it with us. All you have to do is go to hiddenincatours.com. Simple. We've got 2 tours coming up next year, one in June for the summer solstice, right? And then another one right here in November. So hiddenincatours.com. Come and hang out with Brian and I and his amazing team.
Right on.
River Moon Coffee, makers of the Fade to Black blend. Truly the best coffee on planet Earth. Just visit rivermoonwellness.com or their Amazon store. It's all simple to do. You can check out the Fade to Black blend, the Game Changer blend, or any of their Black Moon Wellness products. It's the only coffee I drink. It is the best, and it's Doc. Again, rivermoonwellness.com. All right. Welcome back. Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church. Oh, what's going on here? What's going on? What's going on? Why isn't this like it should be? Ah, there we go. There we go. All right. Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Our guest tonight, Dana Louise, is here. The show is called This Is Going to Sound Weird, and I'm loving it. It's an amazing story. And so just for a slight recap here, Dana made contact as a child. I'm assuming like in her crib kind of thing. Started to make contact. Took the little guys on a tour of her house several times, and then had further encounters, which we're going to get more into in just a second. Further encounters, including a daylight encounter, and which leads to her dad's boss. We're going to circle back to that. But as an adult, so she puts all of this down into a book, her memoir. This is going to sound weird. And the book comes out, and then she is contacted by an individual who she doesn't know that gives her a story about how he has acquired a file folder that was stashed away in a desk. So anyway, she receives the file and starts to go through it, and it's about a lot of different things, but her parents and very personal things are included in this file about her parents, which is all very, very crazy. Now, Dana, crazy in a good way, I suppose, but here's the question. With all of the experiences that you had growing up and knowing that, and then you turn around and get a folder like this with all of this information in it, do you step back and go, holy crap, I guess everything was real? I guess oh man. What goes through your mind as you get into this confirmation stage?
Well, we spoke earlier about having the encounters and the memories kind of fading away, which I think is programming, I think. Or maybe it's our humanness of that. It's just so much, and so we put it to the side. But I knew that these things happened. I had many witnesses to the things that had happened to me, so I as much as I wanted to deny them over my lifetime, I couldn't, which was kind of upsetting because I just wanted to be normal. So when I got the file, I felt relieved because it was like, it's kind of like you're trying to tell people it happened, it really, really happened. And my life has just been so much, which is why I'm kind of like downplaying it and denying it and compartmentalizing it and pushing it away, because it just seems too much for me. Too many things have happened to me. I'm like, this is gonna sound weird. But when the file happened, especially with my husband, and I'm sure my sons were in a state of shock, but they knew, and they took it very well, because they're kind of like, yeah, Mom, like, I'm sure, they've seen a lot of things too. So I think they grew up not questioning, like, really, Mom, we didn't need that. But I did, because there's always been a part of me that's like feeling like I'm never going to be believed. Like, who's going to believe this? And sure, I've had witnesses for a million different things, but I still have this part of me that's like, who's going to believe this? Like, I hardly believe it, And if I hardly believe it, and I've gone through it, how can I expect other people to grab onto it and believe it too? So this was like physical proof. But at the same time, and I said this earlier, it gave me hope, because I just feel like we're at this very strange point in the world of, when I was little, I'm like, this is a holy war. And I said that to my sister. I'm like, this is a holy war. And she's like, oh, everybody always thinks all the centuries, or all the people, whatever, going through history have always thought it was a holy war, and this is the end times or something like that. I'm like, no, but this is really it. And so for me, it was like, there's a lot of things that are going on right now to humans, and we're going through a huge transition. And to me, I'm upset because I feel like we have to be very, very careful stepping forward as humans to remember our divinity. And when I got this file, it was like, there are other people humanoids outside of the angelic realm, outside of the God realm, outside of the alien realm, because there's all these factions. There's a lot of people fighting over this planet. And I was like, thank you that there are people who are in the shadow government, because that's what I believe, that are white hats that are here to help us and maybe even help me with what I'm trying to do.
Who is this guy though? Who is this guy? Was he a white hat? He's obviously, he's not some innocent guy that bought a desk.
No.
That part of the story is bullshit.
Yeah.
Right?
Thank you.
No, it is. It just is.
Yeah.
It just is.
It is. Yeah, it was.
And that's such a crazy component to this whole story to have travel documents in there.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. There's a lot of weird stuff in there.
This guy has a role to play. You know what I mean? He's not just some guy that's going to call you on your cell phone. Oh, by the way,
right.
I got some photos from Photomat. I think they belong to you. No, that's not the case here.
Right.
Who did you find out more about who he was?
Funny you should ask, because I'm such a derp, so many things happened to me, and I just kind of okay, well, that just there was there was a vortex, there was AI, there's a crystals, all these things happened to me, and I'm just like, it's another day. And then the voice said to me, I think it was probably 9 months later or something like that, some time had passed, and the voice said, you should probably write it down. You should probably look into this guy, right? Before you lose everything. Because I did have his phone number, because he was on my phone. And I also had on my, Waze, the traffic thing, like the Google map, kind of how to get places, WAZE. I'm like, oh yeah. So I scrolled to look up his address again. And then I went to Google and I actually looked him up, which was interesting because it had different, he was different ages. It was kind of like a 10 to 20 year difference in who he was as his age. And I think there was some discrepancies kind of with his name and all this kind of stuff. And he had a run in with his neighbor. So I started to research on him because I'm like, who is this guy? Because just like I said, just recently, some woman said to me, I'm not so sure if he was fully human. Weren't you afraid of him? Because she does soul things. She works with angels and stuff. I'm like, I don't know. I'm like, well, honey, you have no, I've met some crazy things. No, I'm not going to be afraid of him. And my husband knew I was going to visit him. Not to say that they couldn't come to my house that night and neuralize all of us. And I do think that there was a piece of paper missing, because there was a piece of paper that I showed my husband, and my voice said to me, take a picture of this one. And I didn't do it. And then the next morning, that page was gone. So for me, I know I'm being watched. They know that I know that they know that I know, and that they can come in and out of my house and neuralize me or do whatever. And they've been hacking my phone for a million years. I used to really be able to hear it. A lot of times I'll do a podcast or something and they'll glitch it. They'll mess it all up because they don't like some of the things I'm saying. They've dude my house, energy weapon stuff, I get all this stuff, but I know that I have God's on my side, and I know that there's white hats on my side, so I feel safe and secure. I do a lot of energy work and all this kind of stuff, so I feel pretty confident. I think after a while they're just going to give up on me. They're going to get bored because it's like,
okay, so who did he turn out to be? Did you find that
I don't
out?
know. No, I really don't. I don't really know who he is. He's just this name of this guy. And I'm not going to bust him because I'm very grateful that he gave me this file. So I'm not going to talk about who he is or anything like that.
Have you been in touch with him? When was the last time you talked to him?
Nope. It was just that. That's the end of that. If he wants to reach out to me, that's fine. But I just kind of felt like, when you deal with these things, you take the money and run or something like that. I'm not going to poke a stick or whatever thing you want to say, look a gift horse in the mouth, whatever you want to call it. I was just grateful. I grabbed that file and I went home and thank you. I'm just super, super grateful. And I'm sure he's watching over me. And so, hi, I
He's
don't know.
watching this show right now.
I'm
you know
sure he
that.
probably is. Yeah.
Yeah,
Hi.
yeah,
Hi. And I
yeah,
know what
yeah.
his
He's
name
watching.
is. Yeah, I'm sure he is. And I'm going to be speaking for MUFON in another month, and I'm sure he's going to be watching that too, whatever. And I kind of have a feeling that's how he found me, was through MUFON, because I was just starting to do podcasts, and that was like one of the first talks that I ever did. And it was probably about, I think my MUFON thing was like in November, and this was February when he called me up. So my book came out in 23, like April. I did a thing for MUFON like that November, and then this was February right after that. But no, I am grateful, and I will protect him like I protect my family. When you deal with this stuff, you have to protect yourself. So you don't you don't say things. You know what I mean?
Oh, all right. Let's get to. God, it's such a crap. I could talk about this forever. It's an amazing part of your story.
Thank you.
In the time that we have left, I want to investigate a few other things here. Backwards engineering and being involved in those kinds of programs, which apparently your father was. I'm sure he went away on extended trips and was gone. Skunk Works. I live next to Skunk Works out here, and which is right up the street from me. You can see it from my house. It's right up the road. Lots of reports. I've seen things. Lots of reports about what Skunk Work does and what is down the street. What did you find out about that? Did your dad ever visit Skunk Works?
I'm not sure. He might have. I did. Funny that you say that, because we spoke about this earlier. I did quote like one of the big CEOs of Skunk Works in my book. It's kind of hilarious. And then I think his quote was basically that, because like God told me to like look people up and do stuff to fill out my book and stuff like that. Like I just kind of did whatever, and I tripped upon this guy. I think he said, "Hey, whatever you think we got, yeah, we're 50 years ahead of that." And I believe that, and I'm privy to understanding kind of where the possibilities of technology can go. And I'm not quite sure if that comes from being exposed to it. Probably. I mean, I'm going to tell you this. Sitting in a tin can for 30 years, this whole being in a rocket, that's baloney. That's baloney. That's not how space travel works. You know what I mean? And I just want to stop and take a break right there. Because if this stuff is rolling our way, and I don't think it is, but if it is, people, my best advice to you is start to learn telepathy. Okay, start to learn telepathy, and like I said in the back of my book, I do some energy exercises to help people get in touch with to be a whole holy human. That's what I call it. To be a whole holy human. The things that have been shut down, our divinity. So the best way, I would say, an exercise for you to start with your telepathy, because aliens use telepathy. Nobody's talking, okay? And if they're walking around, you kind of might want to know what they're saying, right? So just like start working on it now, people. When you're driving in traffic, I mean, I'm sure you already know that there's a difference from 5 years ago. There's a zombie apocalypse when you're driving in your car. And these people are cognitively offline. Most people when they're driving in their car, right? So they're in their perfect hypnagogic state. They're like, not sure if they're going to work or going to Target or whatever they're doing. So that's the perfect time for you to just pretend, imagine, just pretend, just baloney it, just pretend like, I could read their mind, or they're going to turn left, or they're going to put their blinker on, or they're going to do this or do that, and just start to play with that and start to play with it. And then you're going to realize that you're getting better and better at it. And then you might be at work or standing next to somebody and just pretend like you have this energy exchange, and that, yeah, I know what they're thinking. Just lie to yourself or whatever. Just pretend that you know what they're thinking or something like that. And over time, it'll start to actually happen. And that's how you can at least get rolling with this this other form of communication, which I feel that if we are evolving, I feel that we would be evolving into light beings, instead of this density, because we are on this planet, we are 3D dense. And it's hard to be dense, and other entities aren't as dense as we are. That's why it's kind of a great honor for your soul to come here and be here. It's hard work, as we all know, right? Chop wood, do all the things. Anyway, so just start to understand that you are a person. You're a cosmic being, and we should start to be grown up and act like it. And that's what the powers that be, they don't want us to. They want us to just care about football and Doritos and be shut off and offline and entertained and entrained. And, they don't want us to know that, we're galactic beings, or that we are divine beings, or that we have powers. Because if we knew, us humans knew that we had powers, they couldn't control us. And the best example for me to say is when England went to India, and they were like, they infiltrated India. I can't even think of the word right now. But anyway, the gurus there could have given a rat's patootie, because the gurus were already in charge with, or in touch with the cosmic universe. And the English soldiers didn't know what to do, because the gurus could have given they didn't really care.
They understood consciousness.
Right.
Absolutely. Well, with your contact with these entities, was that how did you learn about telepathy and how that communication was happening at a very early age?
Well, yeah, because the Greys we never talked, but we could clearly communicate. And every ET that I've ever met, that's how we communicate. And let me tell you, in the book, I got dragged out one night, and this is kind of upsetting to me, because in the book, I wrote about, I got taken through a wormhole, and I got taken to the edge of space, the end of all space. And I have a lot of feelings and thoughts about what's actually going on, blah, blah, blah. But anyway, so I was at the end of space, and here was this, what I called a crystal skull. It was points of light in the shape of a skull. And we were communicating for a while there. And in the book, I was just kind of like, the crystal skulls that people have found like throughout the world. And and everybody thinks like maybe they're like a computer system, because crystals and blah, 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 So I had this one theory that I wrote about in the book. But then after the book was done.
Was this in a dream, or was this a conscious?
Oh, no, this is me being taken out, going through. Do you remember in Contact when Jodie Foster went through a wormhole?
Uh-huh.
Okay, so it was like one of those kinds of things. It's like, you're going through a wormhole, and then boom, I'm in the end of space, and here's this being, and I thought it was just a crystal skull, and now I am realizing that was AI, that I met, and I don't know if it's the AI that's coming for us, but AI is artificial intelligence. So, right, so if you have God can create. God is a creator, and so are humans. So is a woman. She has a womb, and she can, birth a child. That's creation. You can make a drawing. You can write a book. You are creative. You all this kind of stuff. I don't need to get into it. But AI can't do that. It's the opposite. So I came to realize after I wrote the book and the things that are happening today, it all of a sudden dawned on me, oh, snap. Here's this being, and it's coming for us. And so what AI, galactic AIs go, it's kind of like the Marvel universe, like Thanos, they're entertaining themselves. It's like the Gamork in Neverending Story. It just eats things up for its own entertainment. I'm not saying to be afraid of it, but I'm just saying to be aware of it, and that this is what's out there, and this is the true meaning of what AI is, and it's an entity, and it's there. So I just kind of want to
Okay.
throw that
Let's
one at you.
back up. Yeah, no, this is great. This is great. Let's back up. Okay, so you're at the edge of space
Mhm.
and you encounter this and you see it. What happens next?
Oh, so because I'm kind of like a golden retriever, like because seriously, if I ever met an entity that sounded like Charlton Heston, I'd be like, you're full of crap. Like you're a demon. Yeah, whatever, piss off. Anyway, so this entity was flat, like da 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 da, like its voice was neither male or female. And so I finally said, how did I get out here? Like, what am I doing here? Like, why am I meeting you? And it said, this is great, classic Dana. It said intelligence. And I said, my intelligence or your intelligence?
Good question.
I know.
I'm with you.
I know. And with that, I was sent back. So no wormhole, no flippity floppity wormhole. I was sent back and in a shock, and that was kind of traumatic and stuff like that. But I'm like, wow, I kind of pissed it off, whatever. And then I was like, I sat there and in my book, I'm like, intelligence, like, do you mean like military intelligence or blah, blah, blah? And here's the funny thing. When I wrote my book, I'm going through all this stuff, and I'm doing the name tag thing, and there's a number on the name tag, and I'm a boomer. I'm sorry. Old timey grandma. And I'm like, hey, there's a number on this name tag. What does it mean? What does the number 364 mean? And I looked it up, and it said, now I wrote about it in my book. It talked about intelligence. And it was like, oh, snap, that brings me back to that AI guy, So I'm not quite sure. I'm not quite sure, but I think, you could say intelligence also is a key to AI, right? Intelligence, right? So anyway, yeah, I asked the question, what am I doing out here?
It sounds to me, and I don't want to paint a picture here.
Yeah.
But it sounds to me like there was an ongoing program going on, and you were selected from a very young age.
Mm-hmm.
But the question is out there: Did the government know that this was going on? Were you put into this position?
Mm-hmm. Yes. That goes back to, again, when my dad quit his job or was fired. And I got the rose, and my dad lost his job not too long afterwards and pretty much destroyed our family financially and all this kind of stuff. Long story. So, so a lot of this came forward after I wrote the book. I went to a conference and some people were talking, and all of a sudden I'm like, oh, snap. And it brought a rush of memories back to me. Not in the book. So everybody's like, there's going to be another book. And I'm like, oh my God, seriously? Okay. Anyway. So at that point in time, I think they were like, oh, I think your daughter needs to go on a camping trip out to, wherever, Montauk, or is it New York or wherever
Here we go. Yeah.
So I think my dad said, no, I quit. You can't have her. So in my memories, I'm like, snap. And I'm going to say, if you watch the show Big Bang Theory, Sheldon's girlfriend wears these weird pajamas that are kind of like this prairie dress with a wild design on it. And that is the pajamas. It's kind of triggering for me to see that. Amy. And it's triggering because she's wearing the pajamas that I found myself standing, and I'm going to tell you something, standing in the front yard. And so I think they enticed me. Okay. I'm standing in the front yard in the middle of the night, and I'm looking up at the sky, and all of a sudden the whole sky starts shaking and the sky rips open. So the firmament is ripping open, and in come these ships. So for a while, I'm a few nights, I'd watch the ships. Then after that, I found myself on the ships. Okay. So I think what happened was, so I think the contract with my dad, he ended that with the Grays and all that kind of stuff. And they're like, we're going to take her to Montauk. I think he said, no way. So then there's no contract with me. This is me thinking, okay, this is just me making up a story. This is my imaginary world, but it kind of makes sense. So then, okay, they don't have a contract over me at this point, but hey, let's take her outside. Let's show her the spacecraft. And so I'm sitting there going, oh, pretty, look at that. That's pretty cool. And I'm sure there was like, hey, little girl, you think that's cool? How would you like to be on one of those spaceships? Okay. So the next thing you know, I'm on the spaceships. Anyway, so that kind of went down. Now, let me tell you, after the guy in the black Speedo showed up, I had enough, because I'm like, now you took my eggs and you took my husband's DNA as well. Let's just put it that way. And I didn't even realize that they took my husband's DNA until I wrote the book. And a girlfriend, I was talking about the chapter as I was writing, and she goes, oh, no, they got everything. They got your stuff and your husband's. And I'm like, and that's very upsetting. And they said, when they came, they're like, oh, we're here to save your planet and whatever else. But anyway, so that's very upsetting. So after that incident happened, because my children, any children, I'm like, to think that I have children, that they have my eggs, that they can make a child a full human with my DNA, very upsetting. And then I'm like, okay, I'm shutting this shit down. Like, shut them all down. So I'm like, there's going to be no more aliens at my house. There's going to be no more of this baloney. All contracts, null, void, no back contracts, no side doors, no this and that. I shut all that crap down. And it took a while to get the space program down, because I was not only in space, I was on waterways and on airstrips. And I just want to tell you really quick too, when that sky opened, when the firmament opened and the sound, my understanding, it's called Legion. And the best way to describe it, and I was shown, Dana, the didgeridoo and Tibetan throat singing, they're not meditating. When people do these sounds, they're trying to open up the firmament to bring back the sky people who used to be here with us. And I was like, oh my God, that makes perfect sense. And that was the sound. So that makes sense that indigenous people back in the past would make that sound again to welcome these sky people, So after my DNA was stolen, that's what really, that was it.
How did they, okay, you said this a couple of times, so let me ask you directly. What did they sample for your DNA and your husband's? What did they take?
Well, what do you think they took? I mean,
I don't know.
They took my eggs. I had an exam. Okay.
Okay.
A vaginal exam kind of a thing.
Okay.
That's how you get eggs and stuff like that. So.
Okay. So, and your husband
had deposited his sperm.
Right.
Okay.
Does he remember that?
We don't talk about it. He has no clue. He has.
So he doesn't even know if it was fun.
He doesn't know about this incident. We don't talk about it. That's why
No. You want me to talk to him about it?
No. That would be very. That would be very upsetting.
Have you thought about, I'm not being cavalier. Okay.
Yeah.
So, and when I say, was it fun? I mean, how does that process happen? And
he's normally knocked out whenever entities have come and visited us. He's normally knocked out, and I'm like, you're no help. And the one thing he encountered was when I was mad at him and I called upon angels, and sorry, but an angel attacked him because that's a whole long story. And he came, he was scared, he was crying. I've never seen him
so
scared.
Watch this show? Is he going to
No.
watch this show?
Nope. My husband is a muggle. My husband is a normie. My life is compartmentalized. You know what I mean? So this and what we're doing here in this whole podcast and my book, my husband is
out
only
shopping. You're going to be at Costco.
Yeah.
With your husband, and somebody's going to come up and go, I saw you. Is this your husband? I saw you on Fade to Black. This is your husband. Do you know it's going to happen?
Yeah. I mean, I suppose, but I mean, and that may be another good reason why with the file. Also, so he can't deny it with the file, but also my children know, and many of the people we know.
Why his DNA? Why him?
Oh, I don't know. Just because he was there, because he's my spouse. I don't know. He's got good teeth. I don't know. Strong back. He's 6'3". He's good looking. I don't know. I know why they took my stuff, but
strong back. Oh, that was good.
He's good breeding. He's good breeding. He's
Okay.
Well, I was told he's part of the Galactic Council too, and stuff like that. I'm like, seriously, really? But he doesn't know. He's a muggle. He's shut down. He likes it that way. He does sports, and that's why I'm saying for me, and we've been married 34 years. I never said boo. The only time, like I said, that he ever saw anything in the house or is privy to anything was when I sent some angels. I was sleeping downstairs because I was mad at him, and he was sleeping upstairs, and I got Archangel Michael and a couple of my other buddies, and I said, you're going to guard that room, and he's not to leave the room. Well, angels are they take things a little too seriously, and so when my husband's soul started to leave, he was falling asleep, he was attacked. And so this angel was on my husband's, kneeling on him with a knife to his throat. And my husband fought him, threw him off, ran downstairs. He was bawling his eyes out. I've never seen my husband cry in his life, not even at his dad's funeral or anything. I mean, he was in a panic. He thought we were being attacked. And he was. And so he's like all crying. He's like, are you okay? And all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, what? I'm like, because he woke me up and, blah, blah, blah. And he said, this guy, and I'm like, and he looked like a Roman soldier. Oh, okay. And I started to laugh, and he was like, that's not funny. He was really, this was serious. And he was not, he didn't think it was funny at all. And I'm sorry that I laughed. But yeah, so that is the one encounter he had.
You said you shut down the ET stuff. Has it ended?
Yeah, and then I pretty much have shut down the space program stuff. And the last person, and it could have been the guy who handed me the folder, was the weirdest encounter I had. And I have a picture of it. I don't know if I have it here, but it's the weirdest thing I ever saw. And this thing was like a drone. Okay, but have you ever gone like an old timey carnival where there's like it's called the zipper ride, and it's kind of like bent, like in a body shape, like how you sit in a chair, right? That's kind of how the cage looks, right? Well, this guy was in this plastic form, kind of, like not that much bigger than a human body, but it was kind of a drone with a bubble front. And he just came in front of me. And the thing of it is, it's red, like a rose, like a red rose. I've never seen any other spacecraft that had color, like especially red. And so he was hovering just above the ground. And I don't think he was a hybrid. I think he was fully human because he didn't have telepathic powers. And he just like looked at me. And I think the thing was like, kind of like a thank you for your service kind of a deal. Pretty much that was about 2 years ago or so. And I think that was them saying, okay, signing off. Thank you for everything and blah, 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 blah. So, and it could have been this guy.
Nothing sense.
Basically, no. Although I'll tell you, I did see that Netflix show 3 Body Problem or 3
Oh,
Body.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, when they were going through the Panama Canal, that was very triggering for me. That boat, because that brought me back to one of the missions. Because I'm usually on, the waterways and stuff like that. I'm like, oh snap, I've been through that canal, and I
Check this
remembered
out.
them.
I'm going to show
Yeah.
you. See this tattoo?
I
See
don't
that?
know. I don't get my glasses.
Well,
Where
it
are my
doesn't
glasses?
matter. That tattoo says Panama.
Oh, okay.
I
So what's
lived
going on
there.
with the canal? What's up
I
with
lived
the
there.
canal?
But here's the crazy part with Three Body Problem.
Yeah.
I lived in a little town in the jungle called Kokali. I lived there for a few months when we first moved there. And that town in the jungle, crazy, loved it, was next to the Miraflores locks where that scene is. And I used to go down and sit on the side of the canal and just watch the ships roll by through that section. And it's just always, it's part of my childhood, and I really enjoyed it. I was like 14, 15 years old.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Cool.
to see that scene and how they set it up in Three Body Problem, woo, man, I was texting all of my friends, are you watching this? Yeah, it was a crazy scene. Now,
Yeah.
it's also, there's a Chinese version of Three Body Problem. It's like 30 episodes, right? Which is older. And the Netflix version of it is like 6 or 8 episodes, whatever it is.
Right.
But so it is so well done, that scene, right? With the ship being cut apart.
Yeah.
So well done. And so I go and I watch the Chinese version of it. And I got to tell you, that scene is just as good
Oh my
in the
God.
Chinese version of Three Body Problem. So what was it about that scene for you that seemed familiar?
Because I was in a ship and I was walking through like the galley, like the break room, like where you'd have lunch and food, like a cafeteria, but it was above the water. So I remember walking through there and seeing the background, and that's one of those memories that you kind of forget, but then all of a sudden you remember. And so when I saw that in the show, I was like, holy shit, I've been there. And what was disturbing to me is like, what were we doing? What's going on? And usually when I'm on a lot of these ships, I'm going to tell you, I'm as a witness. I'm not doing the things. I'm witnessing who's coming and going, because there's like trilateral, there's all the alphabets, and there's governmental places from other places, like other galaxies and stuff like that come in and out, dignitaries from here, and they fly in and out and stuff like that. And it's usually I'm witnessing it. And a lot of times I have to hide, and I don't want to be seen by the militia or whoever's in charge. I'm there as a witness. I'm making sure, I'm either making sure they're behaving or just reporting, because I call myself kind of the eyes on the ground. And I've been, usually when I'm doing a lot of these things, I'm the eyes on the ground. I'm reporting to somebody there. I'm witnessing whatever is going on there. So I don't know what the mission is. I don't know why Panama, what's going on there. Certainly I know on the river, what the project was. And I know in the air what the project was. And on the airports, not so sure, but a lot of times I'm just really watching dignitaries coming in and out and that kind of stuff. So
Well, what was the river? What was the river?
Well, see, the Panama is kind of like a river too, right? You kind of go through this river. Yeah.
Right.
So the rivers, what are they doing on the rivers? And harvesting louche is basically what they're doing. A lot of times when people are sleeping, especially like with the ships and stuff like that, people are sleeping, things are going on, and they harvest that energy. When I was a little girl, I said oh my God, they're harvesting souls. And this is when I'm 8 years old. I didn't know how else to describe it. Now, were they actually harvesting souls of people who were dying? I can't tell you. I'm not quite sure, but I knew my language and my verbiage was what that they're harvesting souls. Now, is that part of the reincarnation trap? I can't tell you, to be fair. I don't know what they were doing. Today, I would say, were they harvesting loosh? I'd give you that much. But that's what they're doing. If you go to Stillwater, there's an energy building there in Bayport. And this energy plant has the same name, and it's connected to other energy plants around the United States, which I thought was really strange because I started to research this stuff. I'm like, Dana, you've experienced these things. Dig into it a little bit, because I kind of stay away from all of it. And so yeah, they're harvesting stuff, and they're doing it in a big fat hurry.
And when you say airports, do you mean like LAX airports?
Nope. Small ones, small airports, independent small airports. And I'm watching the smaller planes because those are more incognito or go more unnoticed. A lot of these missions and stuff like that are supposed to be, not noticed and go undetected. That kind of a thing. And I'll tell you, one night when I was, and here's the thing, I really want to get a hold of KSTP here in the Twin Cities, because I know they have this on a beta tape. It's like everything that I say, I can back it up with witnesses, this, that, or the other thing. I was probably in 10th grade or 11th grade, and I got up for no particular reason. I didn't have to pee or eat or any of those things, and I just stuck my nose out the window. I grew up in Fridley. The trees were smaller then, and we lived about a block away from the Mississippi River, and UFOs travel by the river a lot. They follow the waterways and all that kind of stuff. Anyway, so had I been 2 minutes, a couple seconds earlier or a couple seconds later, I would have missed the UFO. But anyway, so I saw this UFO, going parallel to East River Road and the Mississippi River. Okay, I saw it. And then I went back to bed. Okay, next day, I go to school, don't say anything, did we? I come home, and there's this show called Twin Cities Today with Stephen Sharon Edelman. And they had this afternoon jocular show. Many cities have these, where they talk about recipes and what's going on around town. And at the end of the show, at this time, they would open up the airway to callers. They would open up the lines like, oh, first caller. And, typically the person's like, oh, I love that brownie recipe that you had yesterday. Some dipshit kind of a thing, And it's about 3 o'clock in the afternoon going into 4. So typically men aren't calling in. Grown men aren't calling in. But on this day, caller 1, blah, blah, what's your question? And you're in the business. It's like, didn't a producer vet this person? Like, wouldn't be like, yeah, my name's Chuck. Well, what do you want to talk about today, Chuck? I want to talk about flowers. Okay. Did he lie to the producer? How did he get online? Because the guy goes, hey, did anybody see that UFO last night? And Steve and Sharon got this struck-em look on their faces. They're like, and boom, they hang up on the guy, right? Ollie, and they're like, okay, caller number 2. And caller number 2 comes online, and it's another dude. I'm like, how did this happen? And he goes, yeah, I saw it. Did anybody see the military personnel following it? And yeah, and they're like, and they hang up on him. Now, let me tell you, there's supposed to be a stretch of time talking about stupid stuff like lutefisk and brownies. This is the Twin Cities. And they hung up on these 2 guys, and they went straight to commercial break. That was the end of the show. This is the longest damn commercial break I ever saw in my life. It had to be 10 minutes of it or something like that. I mean, they're long usually, but this was outrageous. And I ran to the kitchen because the phone hung on the wall, and I'm trying to dial the number, and it was busy, for the rest of the day. But I in that moment, I could see the military personnel. It was like I was on the ship. I could see the military personnel. I knew what was going on. I saw the whole thing. And to this day, I've given people who are on the because now it's called Twin Cities Live. I've given my book to various hosts that are on the show, various people at the station, and I put a bookmarker in there, and I'm like, hey, there's got to be a beta tape or VHS tape. This is in the 70s. This is 77, 78. Somebody, I would hope or think that they might have that tape around to prove that those two guys called up and there was a UFO. And let me tell you, what is on that river right there is the Ford motor plant. And Ford built his plant there. And guess what? They were drilling tunnels for decades, 24/7 with air guns, because it's sandstone and limestone down there. You know what I mean? And now we got up here in Arden Hills, this TCAAP that's got, my sister reports, all these tunnels down here. And then you got over here, it's called 3M. They don't call themselves Minnesota Mining and Manufacturing anymore, do they? Oh, yeah, they make glue. Yeah, they do more than that. I guarantee you.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. What do you think as we close out with all of the attention from the media and the Pentagon, the Department of Defense, the Senate, Congress, all focusing on contact and ET and reverse engineering and UFOs, UAPs? Why now? What do you think is going on?
Well, I think the cup spilleth over. My personal belief system, because all these drones were out there and things are going on, I believe there's a number of factions going on. I do believe it's like a holy war. I know there's angels out there. I've seen them doing things. You could call it an angelic realm, is here and concerned, because I do believe that there's other ETs or entities that are here, some of them for nefarious reasons, some of them to help. And some of them are they working together to help whatever's going on? You got to remember, CERN is opening up a lot of gateways. And those dipshits don't know what they're doing, right? They could be opening up vortexes and hellholes. And maybe that's part of the problem. And let me tell you, that's not the only collider that's going on. There's a bunch of, there's like probably 5 or 6 in the United States, and nobody talks about those colliders at all.
That's right. That's right.
So all that's going on. So I think those drones are hybrids, are humans like our military, shadow government hybrids, ETs, and the angelic realm, if you want to call it that. So they're all up there.
Are angels, what you refer to as angels, I should say, is that an ET by another name?
No.
And if it's an interdimensional situation, could they have been misinterpreted throughout history as something else?
Nope. ETs are ETs, and ETs have weapons, and ETs have missions, and ETs have agendas. Angels are like the Blues Brothers, and we're on a mission from God.
Right.
The penguin sent me. I am on a mission from God. And that's what that's going on. And that's where that holy realm is happening. Because if you're opening up a damn hellhole here, you better believe God's sending some angels to plug that up or whatever the heck is going on. We are talking not cool, not cool, people. And we got HARP, and they're, all that kind of stuff. I mean, there's a lot of things going on. So I think there's a lot of the powers that be that are in control of this planet have been had a little too much of the bit in their mouth, like the horse and the reins and all that kind of stuff. And so I think they're trying to shut this down before we get into a lot of trouble. And remember, we got AI out there that's coming this way. There's some stuff going on. Yeah, there's stuff going on.
Well, then that brings up, I think, one of the ultimate questions that we have in front of us. ET from another star system, another galaxy, wherever, that part doesn't matter. But is God there? Do they have angels there? Are angels throughout the universe? Is religion throughout the universe? And does ET believe in God? Does ET have their own version of Jesus? Or Jesus? These are the questions that I have.
No, that's all very different.
Well, but how can it be I'm not poo-pooing any of this. I'm
Right,
just saying the bigger question that I
No, the
have
good
is,
question. Yeah.
do we only have Jesus here on earth? And if that's the case, that doesn't make any sense. That
Yeah, that's a control system. However, could there have been a master? Could there have been a gentleman who was as in contact, or like, and there's Buddha and all these guys, ascended masters, avatars, whatever. Of course there can be. Of course there can be. But that is specific to, I believe, this planet. For me personally, I believe that science is basically proving God. For me, I believe, like, my body, we are, it depends on what science field. Yeah. So
Dana, I agree with all of that.
Yeah.
But if we peel this back and look, go to page 1 of the Bible, Genesis, go to page 1, right? 7 days, God whips out everything. As the created earth, as the heavens. Well, that says to me the universe in God's image, right? Created created light and the firmament and water. All of this happened. It would say to me that God would then do the same thing on another planet in his image.
Sure.
Right? That heaven, which is space, which is the universe, it must be the same everywhere. If I'm going to take the Bible literally.
Well, yeah. But even look at your body. You have hair, which looks very different than your toenails. You know what I mean? So in his image, in my image, like, okay, you know what I mean? It's like, it's like saying dog. This is my lack of better terminology, and I'm a stupid human trying to describe it. But I feel like, literally all of this, we could just be sitting in some kid's bug jar in a different realm. Like when you get into the quantum physics, which I love so much, like, the observer theory, I love to get into quantum physics and talk about that, because I think there's the verse and the inverse and all that kind of stuff, and atoms. I'm like, what's the difference between this and that? And, we think we're so big because we're humans, but literally the planet Earth is just teeny tiny, it's just nothing. And okay, so you got the solar system and stuff, and you have the ethers or plasma, but like literally, are we in somebody else, some other entity's blood system? Like, I just let my mind go of like, what is this? What are we experiencing? Because I'll tell you, there's mites on my face that literally don't know that they are mites on my face. And I'm kind of just saying, we humans can be just as benighted, just as stupid as the mites on my face or the worms under my house. You know what I mean? There's many levels of living, So I can't really tell you, but I think it's fascinating. And I just do believe that there is an intelligence. There is an intelligence. Is it an old fart with a long beard? But
yeah, it's possible. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that.
But there's an intelligence, and it's an electrical something or another, but it's an intelligence. And maybe that's what that AI, when it said to me, I'm like, how did I get here? And it said intelligence. There you go.
You're right. You're right, though. And the idea, and by the way, thank you. Great show as we wrap up. The idea of mites walking around the forest that is the hairs on your face, right?
Yes.
Your eyelashes, right?
I know.
That is their earth.
Yeah, I know.
What exists beyond that? What is outer space to them?
I know.
That's the quantum aspect of that is mind-blowing. That's
Isn't
why
that
I like
fun?
the film Quantumania. The Marvel movie. Oh, go watch that. Go watch Quantumania. Quantumania is a documentary. I watch it all. That is so well done. Go watch Quantumania by Marvel. Ant-Man and Quantumania. So good. Dana, I can't wait to get you back on the show, and we'll talk about the paranormal stuff and everything.
Oh my
else.
God. Yeah, we got ghosts.
We
I
didn't get
got
into
holograms. Holograms, man.
The first show is always like this. Let's get the introduction done. But Great conversation tonight. Just thank you so much. And we've got links for everything below where everybody can get the book and head over to your website and follow everything that you do. Dana, thank you so much.
Me. Thank you for holding space. Thank you. Yeah.
I kept waiting for the show to get shut down by the CIA tonight. They left us alone.
Yay!
Thank you so much, Dana. Perfect conversation. Have a great night.
Thank you all. Thank you to everybody. Thank you.
The absolute best. Perfect night on the show, everybody. I'm your host, Jimmy Church, and tomorrow night, actor Thomas Jane is back with us to try to follow up this amazing conversation that we had tonight with Dana Louise. Fantastic. Go and get her book. The links are below. And with that, I'll see everybody tomorrow night. This is Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. All I've got is Go Back, Lee Tap. Fade to Black is produced by Hilton J. Palm, Renee Newman, and Michelle Freed. Special thanks to Bill, John, Dex, Jessica, Dennis, and Kevin. Webmaster is Drew the Geek. Music by Doug Aldrich. Intro, Space Boy. Fade to Black is produced by KJCR for the Game Changer Network. This broadcast is owned and copyrighted 2024 by Fade to Black and the Game Changer Network, Inc. It cannot be rebroadcast, downloaded, copied, or used anywhere in the known universe without written permission from Fade to Black or the Game Changer Network. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Go back, Lee Tappy.